And we are live. Welcome to this latest episode of Totally Unscripted. My name's Martin Hoxie. I'm, as ever, joined by Charles Maxon. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Martin. Hey, Steve.
Hi, Charles. Hi, Martin. Good to be here again.
We should really rehearse that opening. I feel we stumble over it every time. Anyway, so
we are totally unscripted.
And that's it. So on the show, this show traditionally it was very Google Apps Script focused, and we've got a guest on the show today who is not unfamiliar with Google Apps Script, but we want to also broaden our community's horizons, look at some other products, and also potential integrations into Google Apps Script. We want to keep our core audience happy. So, Charles, what have we got lined up for today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Document AI is a great solution for any business that works with lots of paper. And if you think about it, paper is a language that every business speaks, right? You may have, whether it's receipts or invoices or resumes or whatever it is, government documentation, that you need to turn documents into data, into entities, into searchable, processable content. Why would you have data entry people when you don't need to? The Document AI is a great place to do it. So it's not just paper, digital documents as well, but bring it all together. Also, you mentioned the tie into AppScript, which I think is super unique. Our guest is also very familiar to us. If you've ever done anything with the AppScript environment, she was also on my team for quite a long time before she moved over to the Document AI, and I think it's great to have her. So why don't we bring her on and have Anu tell us all about.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be back. How are y'all doing?
Good. Glad to have you back. Thanks for.
Yeah, it's nice to see some old familiar faces.
Absolutely. So it's glad you remembered us. We appreciate that. We totally appreciate.
No, I've been wanting to come on for so long. I'm so glad we can make it happen.
Awesome. So with that, real quick, why don't you introduce yourself? I know
why am I talking?
we've got a couple titles for you now, so I'm a little confused on which one's which. But what are you doing? What are you focused on these days? And give us a little background on what your work is.
Yeah, so I work in our applied AI team at Google Cloud. So we work on our machine learning products, bringing them to other developers. And specifically, our goal is bringing AI to software developers, not necessarily, people with PhDs in machine learning or data scientists. We want you to be able to use these models and technologies that Google has been building for years, really decades, to better help your applications. So this is machine learning for software developers.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I actually used to be on the G Suite developer relations team. So that was my first foray into working at Google, but with the external world.
You just showed how dated that was because you just called it G Suite.
Workspace.
No, it happens. So
some of us remember when it was Google Apps.
Yeah, Google Apps. Yeah, when I was there, it was G Suite. Yeah, I left before the name transition.
So let's dive in. This is a great topic, and again, as Martin mentioned, it may be outside of the bounds of folks that are focused specifically on AppScript. But as I mentioned, if you've got paper, you need Document AI. What is it? And it's clearly more than just like OCR. What is Document AI? How do you pitch it? How do you phrase it?
Yeah, so Document AI, it's really a platform. So we've bundled up different technologies that help you actually process. Well, we've actually coined the term is dark data. So you have PDFs, you have receipt images, you have images with text data in it. But this data, the reason why it's dark is that you can't really use it programmatically like a developer yet, right? So it's data that maybe you're storing for compliance purposes, or that you actually just don't have a way to automate data extraction out. So it's kind of it's dead data. You're not using it to fuel customer decisions, or, you might have manual steps in a process that you could expedite if you could actually get data extraction for it. So there's actually a lot of technologies under the hood that we have put together and then optimized for documents, whether it's handwritten or digital. So this includes, OCR vision, so you can accurately, pull out the text. This is a very classic machine learning space. Then we also have natural language. So you can actually understand the meaning of the text in there, right? You're not just extracting all of the text. If I have, I'll demo a receipt in a little bit, but if you have a receipt, right, you know that you're going to have line items, you're going to have total values, there's currency, all of that semantic meaning. And then we also leverage things that have just, sort of been Google's bread and butter. So like knowledge graph. If I search something in search, you're going to get back other terms that are more closely related, even if the actual key values don't match just by letters.
Right. So I may have oversimplified in the opening by saying, hey, you can turn paper into data.
I think that's like the most fun visual part of it.
It is fun.
I kind of like to think of it as an iceberg, right? Like it's a very relatively simple API to use, right? I put in my paper and I get some data back. But there's just so much happening under the hood that Doc AI takes care of for you. And that's kind of the whole point of the product.
But let's translate that to business use cases. What are some of the canonical examples that you see or you hear partners, customers, developers building with Document AI? What are some of them?
Absolutely. So what I think the team has done a really good job is like really starting with the industry use cases first. So we have solutions on top of Document AI specifically geared for industry problems. So one solution we call Lending Document AI. So we have actually trained models on specific form types. So I've mentioned like receipts and invoices as part of the procurement solution, but think about all the world's common business forms. So like our lending solution includes specialized models for W-2s, W-9s, pay slips, bank statements, documents that you would put into a packet if you are looking to purchase a home. So if you've done that before, it can be a really lengthy process. And where these tools are geared towards actually solving these real world problems.
I guess this is, where, I think for a lot of people, they'll traditionally think of OCR, but we're talking a lot more in terms of, you're able to understand the document more, you're able to understand the relationship of things more. So it's not just, that looks like a letter A.
Yeah, here's some text. Try to think of some regular expressions and like string functions. Good luck. Actually, do you want me to just do the demo right now?
Yeah, I think a picture's worth 1,000 words. Why don't we jump over and take a look at it and see what we got?
A JPEG is worth, an hour's worth of words. So when I say that we have specialized models for a lot of the world's, business form types, we really have a full toolkit. So I mentioned that we do have OCR. So this OCR variation is specifically trained for documents. So it's trained on digital text, but it's also trained on handwritten form. So that's a really fun, really key way that Document AI helps you with your data, no matter what form that it's in. We even have some tools if you have documents in like a big packet, right? So we have classification and splitting tools that'll tell you where each sub-document type is within the packet. So I'd get back a response like, your bank statements are pages 2 through 4. So then you could then split it and then run it through the correct processor. Here you can actually see the full set of available document models that we have. So we see, pretty niche things like this, but then we also have some that are pretty widely applicable. I will actually show, let's see, I'm going to do the receipt parser, which I have up in this tab. So I'm going to upload this receipt that I have from an office supply run. So there's a lot in there. We really just want you to be able to take your documents in the raw form that you're getting them from the user and be able to go with it. Like we want you to worry on your workflow, not really that prep part. So this is the photo image that I uploaded. So this is a JPEG. This product supports PDFs as well as several different image form types, all in the documentation. Let's look at the data that was extracted. So here, this is really like a preview function that you get in the console for free. But when you call the API, you're getting a lot of info back. So you're getting the data extracted, but you also get a lot of information about the metadata, if this document has changed. You also get spatial information if you want to like integrate this into a front end. You can draw these bounding boxes. But I think the data part is the most important part to start with. So let's start to look a little bit closer. Here on this side.
So quick question. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
You, the developer, though, you've done nothing so far. You didn't train this document, right? This was actually one of the built-in.
Yeah, no, this is a pre-trained model, which means that Google has, we've gotten our own data. We don't use any customer data to train these specialized models, and we maintain these, and they're for specialized document AI, meaning a document AI for a specific form type. We maintain and grow these models, and we, train the model on a variety of documents. So the receipts I really like because it's what we call a high variance document. So every receipt could look different, but there are key pieces of information that we know that every single receipt is going to have. Sure. So purchase time, receipt date, we have these line items. And then line items, there's actually, different parts. We have the description, the amount, product code, all this sort of thing. So these are the keys that you get back in the JSON response. So these are explicit keys that are guaranteed for every single document of a document type. So this is what we call schematization. This is so much easier to work with as a developer versus just getting back the OCR text. So once the schema per document is in the documentation, and you can just guarantee that you'll get these pieces of information back on every document, and it makes it really easy to put into a database, or maybe just take the key pieces that you need for a downstream service.
Absolutely. So a couple of things. First of all, you mentioned benefits way beyond OCR. One of the things here, you can tell a lot more about this than what the receipt says, correct?
Yeah, a good leading question.
Sure.
So let's take a look at that. So I've shown you certain things, right? Like we talked about the line items. I actually want to call your attention to one of the fun integrations that we have with Google Knowledge Graph. So if you look at the supplier address,
right,
we are able to get back this full address, but nowhere on their receipt does it actually have the address. So I'm gonna zoom in so you know that I'm not lying. This is what Document AI saw. But there's a couple things that it knows, right? Like it knows this logo, and then it knows Los Gatos. So it was able to, using basically the same technology, the back search, supply that full address that I would probably need. So this is done just automatically. It's put back in the response. So this aims to save, data entry or data validation time.
That's awesome. And you did, again, as a developer, you did nothing to make that happen.
Yeah.
I think some images have latitude, longitude or metadata too, right?
Oh, yeah, that's actually something. I don't know if it looks at that or not.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious about that.
Yeah. So certain values that are a little bit finicky to work with. So address, total amount, and phone numbers. Something else that it does is normalize it.
Let me ask you a question on the amount. So Martin's based in Scotland. They use a funny different currency.
Yeah, the comma.
Yeah, you're right. They use commas. They've got the you're still on the pound, aren't you?
We still have the pound.
We're on again. How does that work with your ability to read that and understand the difference?
Yeah. So in the response, you're going to get back a lot of stuff. You'll get back the original text that this is keyed to, right? But then what you're also going to get back is a normalized value. So what that means is that we're actually going to break this up to where you get each individual piece of information. So for a date, you get back, a key value pair for month, year, date, time. So that makes it really easy for you to repackage it up into whatever service that you're integrating it into. So the first time I worked with Document AI, I actually wrote some code to put it into a spreadsheet. So this made it much easier to merge into the datetime format that spreadsheets use is by default.
That makes sense.
I think date is probably the big one.
Yeah, date. Big headed.
There's so many different variations on how you can write a date, and internationally as well. So just getting that, I think, is like a huge win. I can't believe you're getting kind of an address when an address isn't there.
Yeah.
So it really is, doing a lot more than OCR.
Yeah. So that's the whole point, and especially the international thing, right? Like most companies are global, if not like going global. So you get like currency, so you know all this stuff in a very structured way to deal with programmatically than having to infer it, and then you introduce a lot of risk and chaos and ambiguity.
All right, so we talk about the benefits here. We save time because documents scanned in, it's now data, the data is accurate, it's more efficient, we can now do intelligent things with it. What else? What are the next steps? Where do we go from here with this?
Well, it's really what problem you want to solve. Like, what solution are you trying to build? Do you want to build something from scratch? There's a lot of different ways you can go. Or if you have a document workflow already, migrating to Document AI, should reduce a lot of steps, but you'll have to go through that cloud migration.
I think as well we got a question on training data, but you're saying that there are specific models already created by Google, so no need for training data.
Yeah, so you don't even need to know machine learning at all. You really just hit this endpoint back, and it gives you back the data. But this is what Google's machine learning team, our AI department, this is what they've been building on, is building the tooling, the infrastructure, and training the models to handle all of this for you. So you don't need to do any of that. You just get to use it.
So if I bring my own document, right? Maybe I write a Google Doc, and I take that Google Doc and I print it out and have people fill it out at an event or something. I don't know. I'm looking for a use case. Is that something that's easily trainable?
You can do this yourself, right? We've had AutoML and training models for several years now. But if you don't want to do that, this is the problem that Document AI solves. There's actually a few different variations of Document AI. So first we have the what we call general Document AI. So that's we have tooling for OCR, but we also have a form parser, which will take any form that you upload, and it understands that like every form is really a set of question and answers. So it gives you those key value pairs back. Then if you want another level of control, then you have the specialized models, which we know what the keys are going to be. But then if you want to do a bit of your own machine learning, let's say that your enterprise has its own form type and you need really high accuracy for your form type, we provide the tools to where you could train your own processor and use it.
What does that involve? Like, how hard is that? What's the effort of actually training?
That's like it's pretty variable about what type of document that you're training. So you'll have to really dive deep into that.
You mentioned it. There's a procurement document use case, which seems to be common. I guess that's the greatest hits of documents that a lot of folks use. Can you go into more detail on what that is and what it covers? Yeah.
So procurement was really designed for the whole procurement lifecycle end to end. So this includes specialized processors for receipts, like the one that I'm showing you, expenses, invoices, utility statements, that sort of thing.
Got it.
I got a question. I've been to a doctor's office, fairly recently, and they have paper forms, and I have to use my handwriting. I tried to print well. How is it, reading handwritten input forms?
Yeah, so that's something that you can test and I think the documentation itself has a embedded demo right there that you can test yourself. But we've trained OCR models specifically on handwritten form types. So it's not just generic vision OCR. It is optimized specifically for documents.
So I have to pile on Steve's question because that is one of my biggest pet peeves in life is every time you go to a doctor, including the same doctor, you've got to hand fill out this form. What's the effort? Like, what's the threshold for knowing that there's a good solution problem to solve out there based upon the effort to do something with it? Because I mean, clearly, and maybe this is an industry looking for help around it, but what would it take, or what's the effort that someone has to do to kind of start one of these solutions off to make it actually, an MVP viable, justifiable use case?
I mean, that's a really good question. It really depends on, the enterprise, your document, the amount of documents that you have, and, what engineering resources you have available. There are several different ways to use Document AI. We have client libraries, in all your favorite languages. I wrote an app script sample if you want to, just use the PDFs and images that you have in Google Drive. You can integrate that into an add-on, a web app, that sort of thing. So.
Can you tell us more about I think this audience may get a good kick out of it. Can you tell us a little more about the app script sample? Like what?
Yeah. So
if
you've ever used URL fetch before, that's exactly what we have. We published this app script sample to one of our GitHub repos. You hit the endpoint, and then because it's app script, I wanted to utilize the built-in functions that you have. So the sample uses a drive file, and it also shows you how to do it with OAuth. But those are the sort of components that you need to get it working in AppScript.
I think I've looked at the code. It's nice and clean. I'm immediately my fingers are getting itchy. I've got things I want to do.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you get a chance to work with it and give us some feedback, Martin.
Well, that's kind of my question. So I admit I haven't worked with it. And my question is, how complicated is it? I mean, if I am an AppScript developer, or regardless of my background, what's the learning curve? What's it like to get started? How can I mean, it's an intelligent solution that does a lot of the work for you, but how hard is this actually to approach and actually make a working solution? Yeah,
so I will say the caveat is that the trade-off that you make is that, we want you to take all this information about the document and do whatever you need to do. Well, what you're getting back a lot of information when you put in the document. So it's like any other API, and especially if you use this AppScript code sample, right? I hit the HTTP endpoint and I get back a JSON response. The JSON response is they've designed the standard for representing documents. So you don't only get the data extracted back. You get layout values. You get a digital way to represent the different text and the different layout features, like this barcode, if you have any images embedded. So you're getting everything back, these bounding boxes. So you can look at the code samples on how to use it. We wanted one API response to serve a variety of different use cases, whether it's just backend services, data analytics, putting into a storage system, or actually integrating this into the front end, which is why you get like the raw image back and a lot of front end information.
I think people should have a go with AppScript with it, but obviously there are lots of other ways. You mentioned client libraries, but for people who perhaps don't want to particularly go there, are there partners available that can help with SELP and things like that?
Yeah, definitely partners. You can even use AppSheet to work with this. You'll have to do a little bit of the wiring. But I think all of these technologies are pretty compatible with each other.
I actually just thought of a potential use case, or actually I heard a request once. Imagine some of these contracts that businesses get. They're very long. And a lot of them will have a section that says refer to this other section. And now they're scrolling down. Now they got to scroll back up where they left off. Then they scroll back down. So you talk about a document splitter, right? So I'm thinking, isn't it possible to take the big contract and tell it to take the subheadings or something like that and break it up, and then maybe restructure it so it's easier to read without
That's
popping
totally something that you would be able to do with the pieces of information that come back in the document response. It's going to take a lot of coding, and you really have to know your document data to do that, but it is definitely doable.
Wow, very good.
You mentioned like the mortgage industry, obviously known for their paper and known for their process and known for you sign 600 different pages when you buy something. Are there sophisticated solutions that you've seen, either first party built by mortgage companies their own, or are there partners? Is that a very common use case?
I haven't. I'm nowhere near being able to buy a home myself, but I haven't looked too deeply into that industry.
Gotcha. I would say that would be a pretty logical one. I'm sure they discover, or maybe they already working.
Yeah, but they've really invested in the document types that you do need for that. So like if you remember from the previous screen, right, you saw W-2s, W-9s. Right. If you've actually looked at W-2s and W-9s, they're very text rich. So there is a lot of explanation of what each form field is, right? I, as a developer, know that, I'm really going to want pieces of information like first name, last name, social security number, wages. But if you run a W-2 or W-9 through OCR, you get back a lot of text. It's much easier to work with when it's schematized.
Right.
And in a previous life, I used to work for a document scanning company.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was after I graduated, before I got my first proper job. But I used to spend my days scanning credit receipts, and then after I scanned them all, I would have to manually type in the amounts.
That's exactly what Document AI is trying to solve. And you know what's funny is, I work at Google, right? But like to make these demos, I had to go print documents, and I was, trying to use my worst handwriting. I was crinkling them. I was spilling tea, coffee, and taking phone images, uploading them, and then just putting the image files into Document AI. And that's how I make my demos.
Well, it's like one of the previous companies I worked for, completely distributed, no physical office, but still required, receipts for train travel and things like that. And it was like the bane of my life was to key all this stuff in, and now I'm thinking I could just do away with all that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Well, even here, even our current employer, you still have to like take a photo of the receipt or scan it and get it into load it in the tool, and then someone has to, run it through something. I don't even know how to use it, but it is, again, I think all paper should go away and should be banned.
And I never do my expense reports on time. So
you are notorious for that. I do remember.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I know Olaf is watching. He used to have to, remind me many a time.
How many times was your G card suspended? Yeah. Hey, total pivot question for a second. So obviously this is extensible. This is a developer show, folks who develop for Workspace. Do you know of any developers or any add-ons that are built specifically yet? Maybe there aren't yet, but do you know of any partners that have actually built an add-on yet?
I don't for the Workspace.
Yeah, I'm hoping some folks tune in and watch. And you kind of get this.
If you are, please let me know. I'd love to see what you built. Definitely tweet at me some questions.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And Steve, I know you build a lot of solutions for a lot of different businesses. Where do you think this could play in? What are some of the things that kind of catch your imagination?
I'm thinking workflows. It could be digital based, right? We mentioned the whole PDF stuff. So there are many people that says, hey, I've got a current set of data. Maybe it's a spreadsheet. I want to convert it to PDF. I want a snapshot in time. And due to some regulations, perhaps they have to log that somewhere.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to, hey, I need a little bit extra help with my discovery later on, I need to now go reference those. And it would be great to have more metadata on all those things, right? So I can see where that could help.
So all of this, this is what the Eng team has really thought about, is what the actual use cases are, instead of just, let me give you back some keys. There are ways for you to digitize and capture that in the document itself. Yeah.
One of our big marketplaces, for lack of a better term, or listener audience base, is the EDU sector. Have you heard of any specific EDU sector use cases?
Oh, that's a really good.
I was curious. I would sit there and go, hey, is this figure out grade tests or grade papers or I don't know, like that. But I just want to figure out if there's anything you could do there.
Yeah, one of my colleagues actually in our Paris office, his wife is a school teacher, so he was actually experimenting on, how to write like a test grader doing this, and it was pretty cool.
I can imagine, because you always hear teachers always say, oh, I have to go home and grade papers. I'm like, couldn't this help?
Yeah,
send an analysis on your written text and bring it in and go, oh, this is definitely an A-.
Yeah, Laurent has this really neat setup actually, where he uses like a webcam and wrote an App Engine app where you slide the document underneath that webcam, and then it's in the cloud. It feeds it to Doc AI, and then he's able to actually draw like on top of the image, like live, with that like scanner setup.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
We've talked a bit about kind of some smaller scale solutions. How big can you go? How many?
This is a cloud service, right? So you can call it synchronously, kind of like how I just did, where it's an API response. You can do, if you do it synchronously, you feed in your document, you get back the response. But we understand that a lot of use cases are going to be analytics heavy, where you're batch processing documents in the background. Maybe this is something you do nightly, weekly, because you're going to do analytics on it later. So the asynchronous API allows you to do significantly more in the thousands in the documentation, the exact specs. If you're going to use it asynchronously, you have to get your documents into Google Cloud Storage. Then you call the asynchronous API pointing to your batch. And the response is actually written back out to Google Cloud Storage. So then you read the document JSON responses once it's done, and you're able to continue with your workflow.
And are there integrations into other Google services?
Yeah, so Google Cloud Storage is the main one. And then, we love to demo AI products with BigQuery. So we have those code samples where you can wire it yourself.
I'm also thinking about Google Forms. A lot of people in EDU and other use cases, they use Google Forms a lot. And we now have this upload file capability, right? So you got perhaps images and stuff. Well, what if I can see an example where they're uploading certain receipts, and it needs to know, to help out with productivity, to say, who's the vendor? Or is it a certain amount threshold has been reached? In other words, instead of a human being going through that labor to say, I need to analyze and go with all these if switch conditions, right? This document AI can do that for you, right?
So yeah, absolutely. So Google Forms, right? Like it'll upload the image to Drive, write some app script or any language that you want with the Drive API, and then integrate document AI. Totally doable.
Yeah, that makes sense. I always see the great use cases in AppSheet where you can upload files and say, field employees can go out and take pictures of things or load up documentation, and this can naturally be the next step to pick it up versus having some person have to go review them all at the end of the day.
Yeah. Or every time that you have to fill out a user profile, like it's all that information is in every document.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Having mentioned that, that this was my day job a long time ago, and very aware, depending on how much coffee I'd had in the morning, how much human error might be involved.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the accuracy levels are a lot higher with document AI?
So, these are trained on huge amounts of data, but accuracy, I'm really glad you brought that up, because something we haven't talked about yet is that in the API response, you're not only getting back this data, but you're also getting a confidence score, for each one of these keys, right? And you're getting a confidence score for the whole document. So there is actually a way for you to set up this human review. So we call it human in the loop. So if, certain keys or maybe the whole document doesn't hit a certain confidence threshold. Let's say I, want a human reviewer of my choice to review every receipt that doesn't have a 98% confidence threshold on the line items. That's something that I can configure. It's sort of another form of an asynchronous step in your workflow. If it does require a human review, you can set up who your reviewers, labelers are. It'll go to them. They'll work on the document, and then when they're done with it, the response that was written out to Google Cloud Storage and JSON will be updated with the new data.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
Because a lot of the document types that I'm talking about, they're pretty sensitive when you start to talk about tax forms, bank statements, that sort of thing. And we get it. You have to be accurate in what we call mission critical workflows.
Yeah.
And that makes sense to also make it legal binding, right?
Yeah. You could set the confidence threshold to, 100 and always have it reviewed, but we give you that flexibility.
Yeah. I was just thinking of a use case. I was, I think about all the paper I've run across in trying to build solutions in the past. And I've seen customers, I remember one customer used to brag about this, large customer, that every single piece of correspondence they ever had with one of their customers, they literally physically kept it in a vault, physical vault. In other words, they had a lot of it. And so I was thinking, what are some of have you heard of people doing archive type solutions where you could get out of paper, and if you have a confidence level, you can get rid of that paper, and then you get the benefits of not just getting rid of a warehouse full of paper, but it's searchable, it's mineable, it's discoverable.
Yeah.
You can do all the great, analytics on it to understand the customer, not just store stuff from the customer.
That's exactly what Doc AI was built for, like in mind, how the product was built. Yeah. If you're doing that, definitely let us know.
Yeah, no, that's a great use case. I think a lot of people need to do that, right?
Yeah, the concept of digitization, digitalization. This is all about turning your unstructured content into structured data.
So let me flip that around for a second, because I personally hate documents. Like I now crinkle receipts up and throw them away as soon as somebody gives them to me and all that type of stuff. I used to keep everything for years, the whole 7 years of everything. Have you seen anybody doing personal-based solutions, like, for example, managing some of your own content? I mean, have you seen anybody build one of those yet? Is there any good use cases you've thought of? You've demoed yourself just to play with to improve.
I think what Charles is trying to work out here is, do you use this to digitize your own receipts?
A little bit, or even better, are there? I mean, there's ways I can use it to digitize things. Like, what are the use cases I could look for that I could borrow or leave from? So again, there's so many. I mean, okay. Here's how I'm using paper. and I'd like to.
Did you print out different forms to show us? Like, that would have been perfect. Charles, show us your W-2.
Yeah, right. I mean, are there personal or other consumer-based use cases that you could think of? Or,
yeah, actually, anything with your social security number, I'd love to see it.
No, not that. That I can't share, because we don't talk about PII.
Yeah.
How about if somebody gives too much information? Is there a redacting piece? Blacks out something, things like that.
Yeah, so there is actually a tool that Google has, independent Doc AI, called DLP, which does a lot of this for you.
That's right.
Yeah, and then actually on that note, on a serious note, so your data, you can read about this in the FAQ, but like this data really isn't stored. Your data is yours. Google does not use customer data to train their models, so that's something really important that people looking at the solution need to know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because that's the worst thing is, documents are sometimes used because they are the last perfectly secure thing, because there's no other physical copy or virtual copy.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it makes sense. All right, what else can you tell us? What else do we know? Like, where should we go for more information? How do we get started? What's what's your advice for anybody listening who goes, I have documents, or I want to build an add-on, or I want to build this into my workflow?
I've got a quick question for that, which may even lead on to that. You'll tell me to read the documentation. But just in terms of, we talked about confidence of data. I wondered, in terms of data validation, so back to my previous job, scanning records. Something I used to do was scan court records.
Yeah.
And I got pulled up by my boss once because I'd entered the date completely wrong. It was 100 years out. In terms of data validation, is that something that the developer needs to think about in terms of when they get the response back from Document AI?
Yeah, so that's definitely depends on your use case, but you will get back the date in a very clear format. Those are the sort of like business logic rules that you can then actually explicitly write in your code, right? Whereas before, you didn't have anything directly as a variable to work with,
Yeah. You didn't always know it was a date object. Yeah. So you're working with a date. You can see it's in the right sense.
That's actually, maybe that's the code sample that we could get, right? How to actually write your own validation code on the schematized values. And, if a date is more than 5, 10, 15, 50 years, maybe it needs a human review.
Yeah. But anyway, I interrupted. Where can we find
you're all good.
About,
yeah. Any more questions from the chat?
There's a couple comments saying that there's a good one that says it feels like our service recognizing handwritten tables and the workspace add-on could be simplified and redone. Sure.
That is actually something that Document AI does. Is it in the layout? You can read about what layout information does get returned to you, but the structural data of the document, right? Like tables and that sort of thing are put into a JSON format that you can come back. The table recognizer parser is something that we've seen a lot of customers use. And the spatial information, in a way, is also can be as equally as important as the text itself, right? Like if something's really big, something's bold, that means it's probably really important. So you have the flexibility to use both types of information.
Well, one of the things I'm interested in is you mentioned you've got obviously these predefined processor forms or document types, but you also mentioned you have specific knowledge of entities too, right? Mm-hmm. So like the knowledge graph is picking up entities it can do things with. How extensive of a library is that? I mean, what are some common examples of that?
Yeah, so right now you really see it with the validation for supplier name and address. So that's what it's looking at in the knowledge graph. But what's on the road, you can keep paying attention to the documentation.
So let me ask you that magical question. You mentioned obviously where you're at now. Do you have any roadmap snippets you can share? You can say, no, I can't, if you can't. But
what I will say, let me flip this. So we have our Google Cloud Next conference coming up mid-October, October, I believe 12th through 14th. I've been working on a lot of Document AI content that we're going to show at Cloud Next, and I'm super excited. So if you are interested, definitely dial in.
So you have news and announcements is what you're saying.
I'm saying that it's going to be a fun Cloud next month. Awesome.
No, I look forward to that. Is there any specific sessions that you may not know off the top of your head that you want to promote? Or
yeah, we have a few where we really talk about our customers, highlighting partners, and things that are future facing. I'm working on developer one, so I'll tweet it.
Got it.
And we'll show really how to turn this API service into a full-fledged application.
Folks who may not be following you on Twitter, what's your Twitter?
@Srivas_dev.
Okay. We may have to have Martin decipher that and put it.
Yeah. Y'all know where to find, or y'all know.
If you can find the show, they can find you today. So perfectly. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it'd be good if people want to stay in tune. I know Anu talks quite a bit about this publicly and has done a bunch of shows and has a bunch of resources and stuff like that. So definitely follow up with her if you want to find her and DM her on Twitter and learn more.
I recorded a 45-minute hands-on workshop earlier this year on how to use Document AI. If you like the Python notebook environment, that's what we use, and we provide sample data. We show you how to make the client library calls and sort of parse out the data. So that's a recording that you can also look at.
Awesome. That's a good one. And you just saw her Twitter handle was flashed up there, so you can follow her and find her and learn more. And then the main page, I think, Warren, if you could just flash up if you haven't already, there you go. The main page, easy to find, obviously, cloud.google.com/.ai with a hyphen in it. But there's actually a pretty good amount of resources up there. I was pretty impressed browsing through there on how much stuff you got up there and samples and explanation. So you can definitely get more there as well too. So sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share with us, or anything else you could say, or gentlemen?
Give me your questions, but overall, thank you so much for having me. I think this product makes so much sense for people to use with Workspace, whether it's AppScript, full client libraries, or if you want to use a no-code environment. Really excited to see what y'all build.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing, obviously, how we bridge our technologies with yours going forward. I think it is, like you said, it's a natural fit, right? It's like I have content, I have documents, I have workflow processes.
Yeah.
Better together.
If people do encounter problems, is there a Stack Overflow tag they can hit? Or
yeah, there's definitely a Stack Overflow tag that we're tracking. And then, our client libraries are all open source, so you can always file an issue on the client library. And all of that's linked in the documentation.
It's actually not, I did do a quick troll of Stack Overflow, and there's already some nice stuff. We went to GA back at the end of April. So this is still really, really new.
Mm-hmm. When you think of some of our other cloud products, BigQuery's been around for over 10 years. So this is, we're right at the start of this.
Yeah, so next is kind of your coming out party, right? I mean, we should see a lot more folks learning about this and hopefully picking it up, and you can come back and tell us all the things you hear people And so, yeah, it is. Yeah, that'll be super interesting to see where people take it, because we're sitting here dreaming about things, but I think a lot more, necessity is the mother of invention. A lot of people will find this. I think, like I said, every business speaks paper, and every business could do more with that and benefit from this stack. So I look forward to seeing what.
Yeah, there are documents, whether it's paper, digital. Every business has documents.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can see where there's documents, and so you need to parse it, and then depending on the results of the parse, this portion of the document needs to go to legal, that goes to accounting, that goes to somewhere else, and then you now split the document. So parser first, splitter second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see a lot. I mean, there's so many different variations of workflows you can see here. So, like I said, we'll sit back and see what partners build and what customers build, what you guys in the community build, and tell us about, and give us feedback and everything. So
yeah, and if you build something nice and it happens to be with AppScript, ping me.
Absolutely, I would love to see a Document AI solution and the AppScript Solutions Gallery.
Ooh, so folks who may not know, we've got a neat solution gallery for AppScript developers, and Anu, in her time working with us, is one of the folks that actually got that launched and created, and so you have her to thank for that. But now she has an ask.
I do. I'm turning the tables around.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to build one, let us know.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it up there. So no pressure. All right then. Well, I think we've talked you out of Document AI, everything we need to know about it for now. If no one's got anything else to ask and there's no other questions, Anu, thanks so much for
coming back, absolutely. And definitely, please pay attention to Next, because it's really exciting what we're working on. I'm deep in the throes of planning for Next right now, so we're really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
So, Charles, what have we got next to announce in terms of Totally Unscripted?
We've got a few shows lined up. We're trying to figure out some dates. A couple of things that we're also announcing in conjunction with Next. So the week of Next, we have a show that I can't say the title of it yet because it's an announcement of a brand new technology. So stay tuned for that. I know it's a busy week, but hopefully you can squeeze us in. And next week, we're going to be inviting our friends and partner that does digital signatures, DocuSign. DocuSign's going to come tell us all about how they've built an add-on to take the workflow of documents yet again and bring them through the process of getting very important digital signatures and simplifying that workflow and building it right into the workspace environment. So we'll be joined by Jeremy, who's a GDE, Jeremy Klessenberg, who's GDE, who's going to come up and tell us about his experience of being the product manager on that.
Excellent.
Do
we rename do we call the show Totally Documented?
We're getting documented, but yeah, no, it's awesome. Again, these are great use cases that kind of touch on.
You can't escape them.
You can't escape them. No, these are what people do. These are what people do. And
we're embracing the document.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I look forward to that one as well. So stay tuned, folks. We've got a bunch more that are coming along.
So stay tuned. Usual channels to find out. We're sticking with the Wednesday now. So if in doubt, just turn up at the same time each week. You'll see something for sure. Thanks for the people who joined us in the chat as well. Thanks for your contributions. I can see a lot of gratitude for Anu, so we'll pass on your thanks to Anu for those. And as Charles says, we'll see you next week. And happy scripting.